Welcome to Follow the Content Leaders, a podcast where we will learn how leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, coaches, and consultants use their content in their business strategies. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm happy today to be joined with Rebecca Thompson. Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good, great. I'm super happy to be here with you today. Rebecca is the founder of Ecosy Travel, a company that's accelerating the regenerative tourism transition. So tell us a bit more about that. What is Ecosy Travel consist of?
Yeah, absolutely. Ecosy is a certified social enterprise. And as you said, we're sort of on a mission to reduce the climate impact of tourism. And we're really doing that through software innovation, finding solutions both for consumers and tourism businesses that will really support behavioral change and just make it easier for both sides of the market really to make different steps to reduce their carbon footprint. Yeah, looking at software that supports accommodation businesses to monitor their emissions and do so in a way that can really easily be reported through to the consumer so that you've got data-driven sustainability claims being made and it all connects through to your consumer-facing platform so that a green traveler can find everything that they need to plan and book their trips really easily.
That's great. I love the mission. What would you say is the one thing we could maybe all do to try and travel more green and have a less impact in the environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big the big thing in the tourism industry, and I think it's difficult because it's so tied in to flying.
Mm-hmm.
But for any traveler going on holiday, I think your flight will be, your biggest carbon footprint.
Yeah.
I think from my side, I think the best thing anyone can do is try out a different type of holiday because there's
Mm-hmm.
such amazing experiences out there and trying to do something a bit different, kind of have this adventure of maybe trying out a train trip across Europe or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
It just opens you up to the idea that there are other ways to travel, and that's not to say that you know we're at all about making people feel guilty about needing to fly. People do
Mm-hmm.
need to fly. You're kind of your person who's going on their one holiday a year isn't the responsible person for your bulk of aviation emissions. There's so much more that needs to be done in terms of frequent flyers or like private jets. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't really see the responsibility on your average holidaymaker, but there are brilliant experiences, and I think what we're really about is showing people what an amazing time that you can really have by taking some of these trips where you can look out your window and see the Pyrenees flying past you, and you're really like embedded in the environment of where you're traveling and get to see beautiful nature going past you or like really impressive landmarks, and it's a really different way of traveling where you feel much more kind of embedded in the environment that you're going to and that you're traveling through, and there's something really nice about that in terms of the connection to the place.
Yeah. I love how you framed it, right? It's not about completely changing everything we've done until now, but trying to change a bit our mindset and be open to these new possibilities. Only that can already make a change. So absolutely love that. I always like to start the podcast with a small question about what is the one thing that you cannot work without in your office. So, what would that be for you?
Ooh. um, Such a good question. I mean, I feel like when I'm working, I tend to have quite a clear space. We've actually
Mm-hmm.
just moved into a new co-working space in Camden, which I really love. And I think the one thing that's missing for me is a plant on my desk.
Oh.
So definitely gonna get that sorted soon. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I think the real essential for me is my laptop.
Yes.
But yeah, it's so nice to like have started the day with a bit of a routine. Um, you know, have these nice little things of just like sitting down with a cup of tea before I start work, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, yeah. I'm quite the opposite. I'm the most chaotic table office in the world. Like I have so many things on them, but it's fine. I like it this way. If it's too empty, I feel like I haven't worked enough. So
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that now, but my desk that I'm sat at home today is very, very busy.
you can have both, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we've looked a bit about what is your company doing. So I would like to understand a bit what role has content played on building up the eco travel company.
Yeah, I think, for a travel company, content is so important. Um, uh, you know, it's our tool really to inspire travelers
Mm-hmm.
to, engage with what we're doing, but also from a sustainable travel point of view, to, be inspired to engage with something a bit different. And I think, how we're approaching it is really to showcase all of the beautiful experiences you can have, and really how they can support people to connect more with nature. I think that's sort
Mm-hmm.
of what we're looking at. And in terms of our consumer software, I think content's playing a particularly important role because we're really looking at how we can leverage user generated content to support
Mm-hmm.
more like a community driven platform. So we've got our sort of sustainable travel stories, which lots of them are written by our amazing content coordinator, Katie. But it's
Mm-hmm.
actually, a user generated page on our website, where any of our travelers can go in and write about their sustainable trips, share knowledge with the rest of the community about, you know, trips that they've taken, challenges they encountered, like advice or like amazing places they found and discovered, and share that with the community. And we really want to build on that in terms of the content that we're creating, to kind of use the itineraries that people are going to be building in our consumer
Mm-hmm.
facing platform, and use that as content for the rest of the community to engage with and replicate or build on. And I think the user generated content piece should be really valuable going forward with what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever you put in perspective, even when it's not so much a consumer based business in my case, but whenever some client of mine or so consumer at the end of the day shares with me an experience they've had or something that they felt during my services, whenever I use that in my own content, it's also, I can see that also connecting much more with the audience just because they frame it, the clients will always frame it in a way that will feel more relatable to other clients that will experience that same thing. So definitely user created content can do a very good piece of content. And just out of curiosity, which are the platforms in which you are creating the most amount of content or that you've seen your content works best?
Yeah, I think we've got a bit of a interesting one because we do sort of B2B and B2C. So with all our
Mm-hmm.
B2C, we tend to really focus on Instagram. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
such an important one for us because it is all about inspirational content, and it's grabbing people with images really. And the reels I think are really important when we've kind of done a visit to one of the accommodations that we work with and got loads of really beautiful content of these little I don't know, like a shepherd hut or a yurt that people have set up. There's such beautiful things that we can show with that through reels or photos, and I think Instagram's the perfect space for that. And then obviously, we've got our own content directly through the website. So it's how we sort of channel that back through social media to get people directed to the website and engaging with the content on there. But a big kind of channel for us as well, because of the B2B side of things, is LinkedIn. So yeah, we definitely do a fair bit on LinkedIn, and that often comes back to almost more like how I am putting content out there myself, essentially on behalf of Ecosy, to kind of build almost like my personal brand around sustainable travel and travel tech software, etc., and sharing what we're up to, and growing the network really of people engaged with everything that we're doing. So that's such an important one, and that's really been valuable in terms of engaging with potential clients.
Here, when you say potential clients into the B2B ecosystem, how would that look like? What would a client that's B2B do for you?
Yeah, so with the software that we've developed for the B2B side, we've essentially built per stay emissions monitoring software so that any accommodation can run through our sort of onboarding process, fill in certain bits of data, and they get a per stay emissions calculation that then can be really easily reported through to their potential guests. So what we're really trying to do in this space is almost move away from your vague sustainability claims like we're sustainable or green or we've got a green tick next to our property,
Yeah.
and be able to really back up everything, like the sustainability claims people are making, with data. So the first thing we're doing in that space is the per stay emissions, because that's something tangible to the guest, because that's really their footprint from staying there. But we want to do the same for other indicators in the kind of broader sustainability space. So our clients there are your accommodation businesses, but with the software, we've developed an API for the calculation of that per stay emission. So we're also looking at software clients, so other software businesses operating in the tourism space, whether that be kind of sustainability software that has tourism clients, or tourism software that kind of works directly with destination management companies, or directly with properties, so your property management systems, etc., etc., so that they would be able to essentially add in this sustainability module for calculating per stay emissions into their own onboarding process, so that all the accommodation businesses that they work with are doing that same calculation. They then have that data. It can feed into all of their own calculations for trip emissions if they're packaging things up. So yeah, I think there's a number of different kind of segments that could use that. It's all quite early days because we're very new to have gone live with that product. So yeah, having lots of exciting conversations at the moment with potential clients.
Cool. So exciting and so necessary, I think, also from a long term perspective. And then, so we've talked about Instagram and LinkedIn. These are the platforms where you are creating content for the company. And then I also like to look at it from the perspective of where do you like to enjoy consuming content, right? So, which are the platforms that you use for yourself to entertain or to educate yourself? Which are those?
Yeah, I mean, mine is Instagram. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't got into TikTok yet, and I know I need to, just from almost more like a learning how to do the TikTok content side of things. But Instagram's the one that I use for entertainment.
Okay.
And I think I would say, because I'm in there, that's also where I can consume more like educational social media content as well. Follow lots of things kind of across the climate debate, activism space, social
Mm-hmm.
justice, things like that, because those are things that resonate with me. But absolutely following plenty of entertainment accounts as well.
Cool, yeah. I'm more of a, I don't use Instagram so much. I use only LinkedIn. I don't know. I've never kind of understood the algorithm or the value of Instagram, but definitely is a very, very big channel. And in terms of the types of content that you're generating, so we've spoken about the user generating content. Are you generating everything internally, both for Instagram and for LinkedIn, or how is that looking at the moment?
Yeah, we do generate everything internally at the moment. So yeah, we've got our amazing Katie Chapman who does all of our content,
Mm-hmm.
and we've also kind of, as an early stage startup, managed to get some good support kind of on the social media strategy, content strategy, kind of how to align it with kind of brand storytelling, which has all been really valuable. So yeah, we are doing it in house. I mean, certainly there's a resource question always as a early stage startup. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
always looking at the best ways to do it. We'd love to kind of leverage more, say, micro influencers and to really amplify what we're doing, especially where they're already kind of engaged in sustainability or out there traveling and can kind of really put our messaging into practice. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's on our agenda to look at going forward.
Cool, micro influencers, of course. And then, if you were looking to hire someone more internally, so not someone that already has their own brand, but someone to help you coordinate all of this content generating business, what would be the quality that you'd be looking on that person to have?
I think it's a tricky one. I think with this because you know so much of it is almost it's that knowledge of the algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a real creativity to it. So I think some people just really get it. Maybe if I was hiring someone to manage our content, I would be looking at how they have grown social media channels previously, whether that's their own ones or previous brands that they've worked with, to
Mm-hmm.
kind of see evidenced success that they've known how the algorithms work, put together content that really connected with the community they were targeting. And because that's really what we're trying to do with our social media content is create a community around green travel. So yeah, I think that's what we'd be looking for.
Cool. And in terms of the content that you've been generating this far, I know you have your partner that's helping you with that, but is your LinkedIn content, are you creating it yourself?
Yeah, so the LinkedIn content I create myself. I think it's too much to ask that she write my own LinkedIn content. But yeah, that I mean, I would also say I do sometimes use Chat GPT. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as a support function, because definitely as a startup founder, time
Of
is
course.
very precious. Um, so yeah, I sometimes will, if there's a topic I want to write about, I'll know what I want to say, give ChatGPT good prompts, and then I will always make sure that I've thoroughly reviewed it and, changed it, because I know what I want to say. It's just a case of like putting pen to paper. So that gives such a good base to then work with the content and, put together something that really fits what I want to say. I've kind of fact checked it, etc. But it just gives that really strong base to start off with.
Sure, yeah. It helps you start without staring at a blank page, so that's
Yeah,
already a
exactly.
huge win. And I'm curious then, what would you say it's a part that you're enjoying from creating this content, if there is something that you're enjoying?
Yeah, I think I mean it is getting into some of the more interesting topics that have, I think, when you're putting together a content strategy and you're looking to post regularly, you're looking at how to create content that is in line with your kind of general messaging, but can be sort of on broader topics and bring in, thought leadership pieces essentially that fit with what you're doing, but isn't stuff that you're necessarily doing in your day-to-day job. And it can be something that sort of gets you thinking again about the broader debate, um, and opens you up a bit from your very narrow I have to build this software, and that kind of
Yeah.
can be quite all consuming, and it helps you look at the wider context that you're operating in, which is really nice.
It does gives you this perspective and helps you step back, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side, right, we're flipping it. What is the worst part of generating this content? What's the thing you hate?
Yeah, I mean, for this, it's definitely the kind of like the imperative to have to post regularly to work well with the algorithms. Because given sort of, when you're so busy, it, it stops it being fun, because you're just there like, right, I have to do this. And I don't know, I think for me, I wouldn't say that, posting on social media is something that comes naturally or I'm really excited about necessarily. So it's how to still find enjoyment in it when you kind of feel like it's one of those things on your to-do list. You're like, oh God, I've got to make sure I'm doing this. Instead of just being like, oh, I've had a really great idea, I want to tell people about it. So it's not that like natural flow of sharing.
Yeah, like the forcing or the handling the pressure of having to do it
Yeah,
consistently and not missing
exactly.
a day. I get that completely. And then just a final question that I just love to ask all my guests, because I'm a big reader, so I always am looking out for book recommendations. What would you say is a book that has impacted deeply your life?
Yeah, I mean, this is quite a tricky question. I would say there's not like one book that I was like, oh, this has had such a big impact on my life. But when I was growing up, I really wasn't a big reader. And I kind of later found out that I'm dyslexic. But when I was younger, I really found it hard to like get into a book. And it wasn't until I sort of discovered like really hard going books that are sort of, you know, fiction books, but filled with philosophy and quite like existential crisis-y books, that I started really liking reading. And I think I just got really absorbed in books like, I don't know, like Anna Karenina and Crime and Punishment, or like Walden, and they're all just sort of grabbed me for making me think. And I remember Noughts and Crosses, actually, by Mallory Blackman, was one of the books I really remember just loving. And I think I was about 10 when I read it. And I was reading it at school. And I remember it was like a silent reading thing. Everyone in my class was having to read, and so I was reading my book. And I remember I went up to my teacher and was just like, "What does militia mean?" When I was 10, and she was just like, "What are you reading?" So yeah, I think, yeah, something that really makes you think. That's always been essential for a book to really kind of captivate me.
Yeah, and I love how I was a bit the same when I was young. I was forced into reading because at school you're forced into read certain books every year, etc. So I didn't like it, kind of dreaded it actually. And then growing up as an adult, going back into picking books and choosing those books that you're actually attracted to, and no, not those that the curriculum is making you read,
Yes.
helped me a lot into learning how to enjoy that. Amazing. So this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us here. And I hope you go on to have a lovely day.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thank you very much for having
Thank
me.
you.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.